Frap Audio has sent me the two 806 modules for review, and these modules are very interesting and very advanced. So let's take a closer look. So today we are talking about these two modules, and although they are taking up double rack space, they are in fact mono modules. What's interesting about this module is that both the expander as well as the compressor function is done by the same VCA. So from a component perspective, it is built pretty minimal. You are just literally controlling one amplifier with all these controls. And what Frap did is make it very advanced. So the bottom section of the module is the expander section, and the top section of this module is the compressor section. And depending on your audio level, either the expander will function or the compressor will function. And it shows this by using these lights. So right now there's no audio and the expander is functioning. Let's turn off the expander by turning off the amount. Now I want to give a quick run through of a few of these buttons on here, because otherwise it will get very confusing. So of course we have our normal 4-pack compressor controls, threshold, ratio, attack and release. We have a priority button which basically prioritizes the compressor over the expander, or well, normally when the priority button isn't pressed, they have the same priority. And with the priority button turned on, it's actually the compressor over the expander that will function. There's a classic mode as well, which basically slows down the attack and release times a little bit, which you'll hear in a minute is important. The contour knob may be a little bit confusing. If you turn it all the way to the left, your sidechain signal, so the signal that the compressor is triggering on, will be linear. And if you turn it all the way to the right, the signal that the compressor is triggering on will have more highs than low. So it's a bit of a tilt shift filter. We have a makeup gain and a parallel gain, and how you can see this is as faders on a console. So you can dial in the compressed signal and the dry signal, or you can turn up the dry signal a little bit and turn down the compressor signal, because the makeup gain goes from -20 to +20, which is like a very well thought out feature. So the parallel is not a percentage, it's literally just the parallel dry signal that you're dialing in. Now with the compressor, you can choose if the compressor is being inserted before or after the makeup gain, which is an interesting choice. Like most compressors are just, the threshold is reacting to the signal before the makeup gain. What this also means is that the compressor is a feedback compressor. The expander, however, is a feed-forward expander. As I said, this is not a simple compressor. This compressor expander bundle thingy, however you want to call it, also accepts an external sidechain, and that's basically inputted through the second channel that is on here. Because it's taking up 2 spaces in the 500 rack, it also occupies the second connectors on the back. So I can input an external sidechain in here, and I can do something very interesting here. I can route the sidechain to the compressor, I can route it to the expander, or I can have the external sidechain be summed, here we go, to the original internal signal. So then the external sidechain is just an extra trigger. What is also cool to keep in mind that there's also a secondary output on here, which based on this setting outputs different things. So if it's routed to the compressor or in the sub mode, the external output will basically output a copy of the signal. And if it's routed to the expander, it will basically output an unprocessed signal. So it will duplicate the input. Like this really takes some effort and time to get used to really get quick with. Now next to this is the listen mode, and I can basically listen to the sidechain of the compressor or the sidechain of the expander, and this even makes sense when listening to the internal sidechain, because then I can listen to the contour or the filters which are on the expander. Now speaking of the expander is pretty straightforward. Threshold, expand, the amount, attack, release, and a filter, a sidechain filter. Now the last kind of weird thing that's on here is the 2-phase bypass. So when it's on, it's on. On bypass, it is simply stopping the processing, but it's still running through the internal circuitry. And on off, it is fully bypassed. Yeah, whatever. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the capabilities of this compressor, I just want to run some acoustic guitar through it. We're not going to use the expander for the acoustic guitar because that would be weird. I mean, we could. everything is possible, but... So the guitar recording that I'm using is doubled. So it's played one time for the left speaker, one time for the right speaker. And that's perfect for dual mono modules, because these ones cannot be linked together. That's one of the downsides of these. You might be able to do something creative with the secondary outputs and sidechain inputs on the back. But yeah. So right now it's of course doing nothing. We first have to lower the threshold and increase the ratio a bit. And as you can see, it's going to sound very, very nasty. And that's because the attack and release times are very, very quick. Here you can hear it. So we're going to put it to classic mode, which already solves this problem a lot. And we're also going to increase the timing a little bit, of course. I'm also going to go ahead and enable priority mode, just because we're not using the expander. So 2-to-1 ratio. And you can hear that there's a slight difference between bypass and off. Now, of course, we're compressing the shiznit out of it. So let's increase the ratio a bit more, because you will hear that this thing is really capable of, 10-to-1 limiting. And it does that very well. You can see that it's constantly choosing which path to take, either the expander or the compressor. But in this case, the expander isn't going to do anything. Now, what is really cool, what we can do now is really compress this pretty hard. And then combine this a little bit with the dry signal. And believe me, there are productions where it's really valuable to have this type of acoustic guitar in here. And of course, this thing is also capable of not completely destroying the sound. You just want it on there, basically riding the gain. Doing a lower ratio, slower attack and release times, like this. Perfectly possible as well. Alright, and the last thing I want to show regarding this acoustic guitar is this contour filter. Because right now it's really responding to everything in the frequency spectrum. And if we turn this up, it will start to only respond to the higher frequencies, like the touching of the strings and stuff. You can hear this, like this is the signal the compressor is responding to right now. As you can see, I have to really do a lot more in order to really get this thing to work. But the sound of the compression is completely different, because it's responding so much different to the signal compared to, like, this almost sounds muffled. Well, this doesn't, and it's not because I'm doing something with the EQ. Yes, I'm EQing, but I'm EQing the sidechain. Now, this is all really cool, of course, but honestly, I'm expecting every compressor to be able to do something like this. So let's make things a little bit more complicated using this snare drum. We're doing this mono, so I'm using the left channel here, and let's just see what we can do. So let's remove the priority, let's put the threshold up, ratio down, so it's in neutral position, and see if we can separate out that snare drum. A bit of filtering. This will probably give some issues with the tom. Now, I don't want to fully gate things. And one of the problems, which is something that I always have with hardware expanders, hardware gates, is that the attack is simply not fast enough. And this is why I most of the times actually prefer software over hardware, because software can look ahead and hardware usually can't. However, it's doing an okay job. It's just okay. Like, it's just not capable of fully opening it up. It loses a little bit of that punch, that attack on that. However, what I can now do is also add some compression to the snare. Which basically makes it function a little bit like the Level Devil that I have, but then just a lot faster. Now I have a pretty nice cleaned up snare with some compression on it as well. And the cool thing here is that the threshold is not very sensitive for its setting, because basically the gate is already removing most of the stuff that the threshold would normally trigger at. So now I can just turn down the threshold and just use the ratio for the amount of compression I want. What's also interesting here is how the sound changes when you change the priority. Because now all of a sudden, compressor becomes way more important. And whenever the compressor is doing something, the expander cannot do anything. While now, it's way more in balance. Now it's of course up to you to decide if you like this sound or not. Now honestly, I would have preferred to use the B-Den on this particular snare. You know, these are just creative choices, if you ask me. However, that's still not the unique selling point of this compressor, because what I think is the coolest thing of this compressor is using it with the external sidechain. Right now I've routed stereo overheads to these. Of course there's no stereo linking, but I'm going to use the sidechain, so stereo linking is not needed in this case, because this will respond to the same signal and do the same thing on both sides as long as the settings are the same. And what I have routed to the sidechain is the snare drum. So if I would now dial in some compression, like that, we're only basically squashing the snare in that overhead signal. And you can do really cool and weird things with it. Here. This is of course doing it over the top, as always. This is a really cool way, for instance, to create some room in your overheads in order to get a direct snare signal in there. Like that. And you can of course also choose to sum these signals together, so to have the compressor react to both the overheads itself So basically the capabilities and possibilities of these modules are, well, way more advanced than I can cover in one single video, but I hope that I at least have given you all a little bit of a glimpse. Now these modules, they're not cheap. They cost 1,115 euros. However, for that price, you're getting a lot of features, a lot of possibilities and capabilities in a very, very small package. And I have to say, apart from the fact that some knobs are not really centered on their potentiometer, but it's a really, I don't even think that the GoPro is picking that up. It's a little bit nitpicking. But apart from that, you're getting a module with super build quality, and as they're saying themselves, it's designed in such a way that it basically doesn't need any maintenance. If that really is the case, well, only time will tell, and I don't have like 15 years of testing time, so I don't know, but they feel very well built, and honestly, for what you're getting, I think 1,115 euros is a pretty fair price. It's only pity that you have to buy 2 of them if you want to do any kind of stereo processing, and even then you cannot link the channels. Anyway, I hope that I have given you all a good overview of these compressors. I would love to hear what you all think in the comment section down below. So yeah, let me know. How I got these modules is actually that I visited the booth from Frap Audio at Superbooth, which is a big trade show in Berlin. And I basically played a little bit with these modules and just said like, hey, I think these are really interesting to make a cool video about. And so we got in contact and they sent me these modules, but I'm going to send these back because well, my 500 rack is already full, and currently I have no plans in buying these. And as far as I know, these are also their reviewers modules, so these will probably move on to the next reviewer. They have no influence in my opinion or in this video, and they also haven't given me any rules about what I can or cannot tell or whatever. And I like to keep it that way. So if you appreciate that, make sure to use my affiliate links. They will be in the description down below. And if there are any affiliate links leading towards the Frap Audio modules, I will also put them in the description down below. When using affiliate link, a little bit of your purchase gets kicked back to me. So you're not paying anything extra for whatever you're buying using the affiliate links. It's just the shop is paying me a little bit for referring you to them. I will also link the QR codes, by the way. And of course, these QR codes lead to those shops as well. Another way to support me is by becoming a channel member. You can do that using the join button down below. I'll link an interesting playlist over here, members only playlist over here. And the last way to support is of course watching more videos. So I'll link an interesting video over here. Don't forget to subscribe, keep pushing, and bye bye.